Welcome to our video blog on prophetic visions and near-death experiences. There are links listed in the video description below to our website and to the full presentation of our study. Today we want to present a topic that we were not able to include in our original presentation last August because of time restrictions. The prophetic visions of nuclear terrorist attacks. Now, we currently have 24 subjects in our ongoing study of prophetic visions in NDEs. We have compiled visions of world events which near-death experiencers, NDErs, have received either during their NDE or in a vision at a later time. In our study, we selected only prophetic visions of events which 2 or more NDErs have independently reported. In the case of nuclear terrorist attacks, 2 of our subjects had specific visions of terrorist attacks in U.S. cities involving nuclear bombs. 2 other subjects had visions of a nuclear explosion occurring in different U.S. cities without an indication of who caused the explosion. Please note that NDErs affirm that we can prevent such negative events. According to a number of NDErs, nothing is fixed in the future because we all have free will, and a prophetic vision can be changed by the choices we make. And even if the events can't be stopped, we can lessen or mitigate their effects by our response to the situation. So when a disaster does strike, we can respond with kindness, compassion, and service to others, rather than with anger, hatred, and vengeance. The most detailed prophetic vision of terrorist attacks is from NDEr Tom Beck in his 2018 book, The Right Path. Here's some background information. Tom was visited at several crucial times in his life by a spiritual being who can only be described as an angel. The first visit occurred when Tom was just 2.5. He was alone with his mother when she collapsed and was bleeding to death. Tom panicked, not knowing what to do. The angel appeared and instructed Tom how to climb on a chair and dial a rotary phone for help. Page 22. During this visit and in each subsequent visit, the angel always looked the same, a bearded man dressed in brilliant white robes that glowed, speaking without his lips moving. His face was always the same. It hasn't aged at all over the decades. In 1992, the angel again visited Tom, then age 40. Pages 101 to 103. The angel told him a great war was coming to the world. It would be a battle between good and evil. The U.S. would be involved in the war that would last over 20 years, starting in September or October 2001. The angel showed Tom the World Trade Center towers coming down, but Tom didn't know what or where they were. The angel showed him the school and theater shootings in the U.S., the bombing of the USS Cole, the atrocities that would occur in Bosnia, and many more terrorist attacks all over the world. The angel intimated that the 20-year war in the U.S. would be the start of the end times. Page 174. Quote, "The angel said that the war would be over sometime in 2022, and that the U.S. would lose the war if we did not change our ways. The angel told me that the only way to prevent the U.S. from being destroyed was for the citizens to pray and put God back into our daily life." The angel told Tom that sometime after the war in the U.S. ended, Jesus would be returning. Page 104 to 107. quote, "The angel told me that these acts of evil would become commonplace, that people would hardly notice these events even happening. People now expect multiple disasters to take place every day. Because this stuff has now happened, I know the end times will soon be upon us, and that the return of Jesus is coming sooner rather than later." After the angel visitation in 1992, Tom's visions changed from being almost always about his personal life. After the visitation, Tom began to see many natural disasters, acts of war, and acts of terrorism. Some visions expounded on what the angel had shown him, and some were of entirely new events and places, like of extreme bus, plane, and train accidents from all over the world. Tom's first prophetic vision occurred 4 years later in 1996. It showed the crash of TWA Flight 800 about 6 months before it happened, pages 110 to 113. This first prophetic vision is of interest because this same tragic event was the first prophetic vision NDEr Elizabeth Crone also received and later described in her book Changed in a Flash on page 38. For Tom, the vision included the detail that the plane would be destroyed by a shoulder-fired missile that was fired from a boat. When the event happened, there were a number of witnesses who reported seeing a missile strike, but the crash was officially declared an accident. During his vision, as the plane exploded in a fireball, Tom says, "In an instant I was on the aircraft with the passengers. I saw the fire blow through the side of the passenger compartment. I saw the fire roar down the aisle, engulfing everything in its path. Just as the fire reached where I was, I transported back to the position I had earlier above the boat." In the months preceding the Flight 800 crash in July 1996, Tom had other visions related to the event, in which men in a cave high in the mountains were planning the attack. They appeared to be of Middle Eastern descent. The faction who wanted to fire the missile argued it would be a practice run for shooting down the U.S. President's plane, Air Force One. The faction that wanted to wait said that the attack on the plane would cause trouble for another operation that was being planned, and told the others they could not do the operation. After the destruction of the plane, Tom saw that the men who argued for the attack were executed in the same cave the earlier meeting had taken place. In describing his visions of future events, Tom reports, page 176 to 177, quote, "This is how I see the United States being destroyed. An unholy alliance will form that will help the radical Islamic jihadis take down the United States. It will be a sneaky and behind-the-back attack. We will not even be sure who it was that attacked us until it is too late to do anything. The unholy alliance will consist of 4 countries and 3 major terrorist groups, for a total of 7 partners. There will be 3 others that will join later after the attack on the U.S. The 4 countries are the ones you are thinking of. Everybody knows who they are. They will join together because they will all have the same goal of getting the U.S. out of the way so they can divide up the world and accomplish their own individual agendas." Tom continues, "The attack on the U.S. will be unexpected and devastating. It will be like Pearl Harbor all over again. It will be well planned and coordinated. There will not, however, be total destruction or vast devastation. There will be just enough damage to cause chaos. The countries will supply the weapons, and the terrorists will provide suicide bombers to carry out the attacks. They will attack 7 of our cities and destroy large portions of those cities. This will be an attempt to disrupt our transportation and communication systems. They are not trying necessarily to physically destroy the country. They know that they do not have the resources to do that. They know the U.S. is too strong to be attacked without having utter destruction brought back to them. This is the reason they will not use conventional weapons and missiles that can be traced back to where they were launched. Tom continues, quote, "The unholy alliance will sneak their devices into the U.S. They will use terrorist suicide bombers to carry out the attacks. I also believe they will use atomic weapons due to the amount of damage I see done in the cities, and because I see that electronics do not work afterwards. I know that electromagnetic pulses can be used to destroy electrical generation and distribution systems, as well as electronics, and this is exactly what I see in the aftermath. I have not seen all of the actual attacks, only the resulting chaos afterward. Food and water will become scarce commodities as our transportation systems fall apart. We will be without utilities, no electricity, no water, no sewage system, no internet, no phone. We will be in the dark. We will be cold in the winter and hot in the summer. There will be food riots and anarchy in the streets, such as has never been seen in modern times. Martial law will be declared, but won't be enough to hold the country together. Survival will become the most important thing. It won't take long for the country to fall apart." Unquote. So Tom Beck's prophetic vision is essentially that nuclear terrorist attacks will be carried out on several U.S. cities by terrorist proxies of certain countries. The resulting damage, loss of life, and chaos cause widespread failure of our electrical grid, transportation system, and basic infrastructure. The result will be widespread anarchy, the collapse of the federal government, and the disintegration of the U.S. into small local territories. Similar prophetic visions have also come to NDEr Shadrach Abednego, a pseudonym. In the context of President Trump, Professor Abednego said, "I saw Trump increase terrorism by his actions, thereby able to establish martial law." In a separate waking vision, Abednego described, quote, "An unknown person or persons sneaks a nuclear suitcase bomb into the United States. The suitcase is left in a vehicle near where the Capitol building is. It goes off and destroys most of Washington, D.C. This explosion is viewed as a full-scale attack from a hostile foreign government, when it really isn't. The total confusion resulting from a nuclear suitcase attack, or several such timed attacks, leads to an all-out global nuclear war." Two additional NDErs had prophetic visions of a nuclear explosion in a U.S. city. Both NDErs submitted a survey in our study of prophetic visions. We identify each study subject with randomly selected initials. NDEr subject SB has had 2 earlier prophetic visions of events that subsequently occurred. Both prophetic visions happened when SB was at a specific location. So in May 1992, SB was driving past the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. SB says, "I became aware about a block away from it that I was headed in the direction of a building that was one of the most important buildings in the history of this country. I was amazed that I would be seeing the front of the building. When we drove past, I noticed the name of the building and what it looked like. I didn't know why it was important. SB's insight happened 3 years before the Oklahoma City bombing, which is, to date, the worst domestic terrorist attack in the U.S. history. SB says, I didn't know what the event was going to be, only that it was going to be important to this country. Then, in 2013, SB received a second vision. SB was in a sports store in Boston and had an intense physical response that something awful was about to happen. SB says, I tried to dismiss the feeling, but soon felt that I had to leave right away since something was going to happen that was not going to be physically safe. My instincts were to get out of there quickly, so I did. I didn't know what type of thing was going to happen. It seemed like it was going to be soon, but I didn't know how long soon was in this case. 2 days later, terrorist bombs were detonated near the store, killing 3 people and injuring more than 150 others. In the study survey, SB also reported a future prophetic vision that also came when SB was in a particular location. SB saw that a nuclear bomb will explode in a city on the U.S. East Coast and kill many people. SB related seeing, quote, an extra bright light as I was exiting a subway station, and then there was a feeling as if I was stepping into another time as I stepped onto the sidewalk, almost like when you are watching something that has been edited. There is a very slight shift in the way things are lined up. Also, there was a slight shift in energy surrounding my body, like I crossed a thin line into a future time. After seeing a bright light outside, I left the subway station. As I was looking down from seeing the bright light, I noticed that the people around me were wearing warm weather clothes and were evaporating into clouds of steam, then turning into small round piles of ash around me. I was located on the sidewalk a few steps outside of the subway exit. Another NDEr subject, initials LP, reported a similar future prophetic vision. LP said in the survey, quote, I was approaching a highway tunnel and a nuclear bomb exploded. I drove into the tunnel and everything went dark, unquote. This vision occurs in a city in the upper Midwest. LP believes the vision, quote, includes a vision of my own death, blown up in a tunnel. Now, there are a number of plausible scenarios in which nuclear terrorist attacks on U.S. cities could take place. The most likely scenario for such attacks is the one that Tom Beck and Professor Abednego proposed. Small, untraceable, suitcase-sized bombs. Such bombs would weigh less than 100 pounds and have a low yield of much less than 1 kiloton, less than 5% the size of the Hiroshima bomb. Another form of a suitcase nuclear bomb is called a fizzle bomb. Such bombs are designed to fizzle, that is, to explode with less total yield than a full nuclear explosion. In both cases, the nuclear explosion would have a reduced area of destruction and fewer immediate deaths than conventional nuclear weapons, but would still create an exclusion zone of high-level radioactivity that would render a wide area uninhabitable. If the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster is a guide, The exclusion zone could have a radius of 10 miles or more around the detonation site. Multiple such attacks, strategically placed across the U.S., could indeed severely disrupt the country's electrical grid and transportation and communication systems. When one considers these horrific visions of terrorist nuclear bombs, it's very important to remember that NDErs affirm that we can prevent such negative events. According to a number of NDErs, nothing is fixed in the future because we all have free will, and a prophetic vision can be changed by the choices we make. And even if the events can't be completely stopped, we can lessen or mitigate their effects. So when a disaster does strike, how do we respond? In his book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People, Rabbi Harold Kushner says, page 161, in the final analysis, the question of why bad things happen to good people translates itself into some different questions, no longer asking why something happened, but asking how we will respond, what we intend to do now that it has happened. So when a disaster strikes, how do we respond? The basic answer from NDErs is, with kindness, compassion, and service to others out of love. So it's good to remember that nothing is fixed in the future because we have free will, and a prophetic vision can be changed by the choices we make. NDEr Tom Beck says that it's important to, quote, pray and put God back into our daily life. And many NDErs say that we should always respond to everyone with kindness, compassion, and service out of love. Please see our blog post number 4, Are Some Prophetic Visions Unavoidable?, where we address these questions more fully. And one final thought on this topic. The FBI has a policy of accepting tips about possible or suspected terrorism. If you see something, say something. The information we have discussed in this blog post comes from very unconventional sources. Nevertheless, our research strongly suggests the accuracy of numerous NDEr prophetic visions coming from different NDErs. The visions are usually completely accurate when the event occurs. The visions are presented to the NDEr as they will happen, or as the NDEr will see them. Frequently, they are presented as an iconic image of the event, one that will later be displayed on television or in newspapers. The accuracy of the vision is verified by the NDEr. In some cases, other people confirm that the vision was reported to them before the event. So in our estimation, these particular visions of nuclear terrorist attacks are worthy of serious consideration and investigation by the FBI. Therefore, we will submit this blog post on the FBI tip line. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear what you think, and we'll try our best to respond to your comments.